This video is over topic 5 practice problems. So you can read through the information, just going over some basics of Excel of what a sheet is, what a cell is. So we have our sheets. You can add sheets, you can move them around, you can rename them, you can copy them, uh, all sorts of things you can do with sheets. And then within each sheet, you have your columns, A, B, C, D, your rows, and then you want to pay attention to your cursor. So as I'm clicking on just a column or a row, I have this down arrow for the column and right arrow for the row. I can click and drag and select multiple columns, click and drag and select multiple rows. If I click and drag in between the columns where I have this arrow with line with the double-headed arrow, then it changes the size of that column. If I double click, it changes it to fit the contents. Same thing on the rows. If I click and drag from with the just side arrow, select multiple rows. If I get in the wrong place, click and drag, it'll change the row size. Double click to go to fit the contents. So again, pay attention to the cursor as you're doing column things. You can right click on the column, you can insert, delete, you can do all sorts of things with the column or with the row from there. And then you have the individual cells. So your active cell reference will be up here. It's the column and row. You can also always see those row headings and columns, and they'll be highlighted to show what cell you're on. Within the cells, you want to pay attention to the cursor as well. So this white plus here is the default cursor. When I start typing in the cell, so I just have this active cell, I'm going to type a number, and now I have that vertical line, blinking line, and when I go over that cell, I have the I cursor. So this is the edit cursor. So if you want to change something within the cell, so let's say I type 213, and then I realize, oh, I needed that to just be 21. If I go here and do backspace, it's going to get rid of the whole thing. I'm going to hit escape because I didn't want to do that. So if I double click on there and get that edit cursor, then I can go and use my normal backspace, delete, select within the cell. So edit cursor for that. Then I'm hitting enter or tab. So as I type, let's say I just want to type 35 here, and then I can hit enter. I can hit tab. Enter will take me down. Tab would take me over to the next cell, or I could use arrow keys. So if I'm putting stuff in here, I can do my up arrow, down arrow, left, right, so on to navigate within there. Or you can just click on a different cell when you're done typing what you want to type. So that's the default cursor, the edit cursor, and then when you have an active cell, if you select multiple cells, by the way, then it still has an active cell within, and then it has the selection. So you have this green line around the selection. Anytime you have an active cell or selection, if you go on the edge of it, it will, so let's just do with one active cell. On the edge of it, you get this four-headed arrow that will move. So if I click and drag there, it takes those cell contents and just moves it to a different location. Okay, so if I want to select multiple cells, I need to make sure I have the default cursor and click and drag. Then I can select whatever rows, columns I want. Default cursor to select. Once you have something selected, the move, whether it's again just one cell or multiple cells, the move cursor there will move the whole selection. And then if you go to this corner and get this little black plus, click and drag, it will copy. Now, it'll sometimes do different things with that copying. It will, if you have a pattern, so let's say I do 1 and then 2, and select both of those, and then go down and get that and copy, it will say, oh, there's a pattern. I'm going to continue that pattern. The other thing is if you have a formula with cell references in it, it is going to change those cell references. So if I over here have said take this thing in cell A1 and add something to it, and then I copy that formula to down to the next row, you'll say, well, you said A1, but now you've gone down to the next row. I'm going to assume you now want me to do the same thing, but with A2 instead. So it'll change the cell reference when you copy the formula. So pay attention to those cursors, get comfortable with that navigation, especially the clicking and dragging to know whether you want to select or move or copy, that you're getting the correct cursor to do that. If you ever do something and you say you move it and you're like, that's not what I meant to do. So let's say, or maybe I want to select these five and I accidentally do this. That that wasn't what I want to do. Again, always pay attention to what happens, and you can do a Control Z or an undo to get back to the previous step. Or if you're within a cell doing something and you realize you didn't want to do that, hit Escape to kind of get back out of the edit mode and undo whatever you had done while in edit mode. Um, so again, look at that, play around with that. You really need to just practice doing that yourself with those different cursors and cell actions and row and column actions. So the main thing here is calculations. So with calculations in Excel, you always start with equal. So if I just type 4 plus 2 in a cell here and hit enter, it doesn't do the calculation. If I wanted to actually do, and the same thing if I do 4 plus 2 equals, it doesn't do anything. But if I do equals 4 plus 2, then Excel sees that equals at the beginning and says, you want me to do a calculation, and it does the calculation. Now, if I go back and double click here, get back into edit mode, you see it still has the 4 plus 2 stored. Now you can also, you don't have to go into edit mode to see the input of the cell also is up here in the formula bar, and you can also edit the contents there. But yeah, so that's what you're looking at there. Do calculations. So addition, plus, subtraction, the minus sign as usual. For multiplication, the asterisk, division, forward slash, and exponents use the caret. So if you want to make this calculation here in Excel, I go wherever, whatever cell, doesn't matter. I hit equals to tell Excel to make a calculation, and I just start typing. Now, you might want to put just, if you're not sure whether or not you need to, go ahead and do it. Say, like, I need to put the whole top and the whole bottom because it's a division with that fraction bar, but maybe you put the whole top. So we're going to have kind of the top and bottom of the fraction, each enclosed in parentheses. So that division sign here is the fraction bar. Then the top is the 200. Now, if I just do 200 parentheses 1 plus 2, and then the caret symbol for the square, Excel isn't going to quite know what to do with that. Now, it can tell sometimes and it'll figure out, but it will still like pop up and have you put in. So we'll see what happens if I just leave it like that. And then I do 700 minus 500 here, and I hit enter, and it pops up. It says you have a typo, and it's gone ahead and corrected and inserted the asterisk. So I say, yes, I'll accept that. And then I can see it put that. But I just don't, if I put the asterisk myself, then I don't have to worry about that correction having to be made by Excel. So there's that. All the different calculations there, the division, the addition, the subtraction, multiplication, the exponent, all happening in that calculation. If you didn't use the parentheses, so let's say I didn't include the parentheses around the top and the bottom, it's going to come out wrong. And it's the bottom there that's the problem. If I do parentheses around the bottom there, because it's applying order of operations, so it needs the parentheses to know that the minus 500 is included before the division. And so then like that calculation you could do on a regular calculator. There wasn't really any benefit to doing it in Excel. But the main reason to do things in Excel is because how you can use cell references and then the autofill or that copy feature. So we'll start with a pretty basic example here, not really using the autofill yet, but you'll see more of that in later in the course. But starting with, so we're going to put in a blank Excel workbook. So you enter your age in cell A1, and I'm just going to enter a random number. Let's say 21. I think I did on the other example. So you just put whatever your age is. And then, so we want in A2, and I just hit enter, and that took me to A2, so I don't have to click around. I want to add 17 to the value in cell A1. So I start with equals to tell Excel I'm going to have you calculate something. And then I want to add 17 to the value in cell A1. So I'm not going to type 21 again. I can either type A1, and you can see it'll highlight the cell I'm referring to. So when I did A2, it didn't, but it would have, if I try and do that, it's going to pop up and say, you're pointing at like you're saying it equals itself. That's useless. So you can't really do a cell reference to itself. It's not going to work very well. But A1, and I want to add 17, so I'll do plus 17. I could have done 17 plus A1 as well. Either way, all right. So it's done that, and it's made the calculation. I can still see that formula there that's producing that result. Then I go for A3, multiply the value in cell A2 by 2. So I'm going to do equals again to tell it to do a calculation. Once I've done the equals, I can go ahead and click on the cell. So if I click over here on cell A2 rather than typing in A2, then it gets it. It's a little easier than like trying to find the cell reference. That means to just click on the cell where the number is that I want to do something with. And I want to add, I want to multiply by 2. So I'll do times asterisk times 2. If I try and just do, like if I say 2A2, like this, it's not going to have any idea what to do with that. So it's not even going to know to do the asterisks. So I would have to, again, put the star there, and it's not going to be able to correct that automatically. But you could do 2 times A2 or A2 times 2, either way. Then A4, subtract 30 from the value in cell A3. So again, equals, I'm going to take cell A3 minus 30. And then A5, divide this value in cell A4 by 2. So equals, click on my cell A4, divide by 2. Again, I'm not doing any of these calculations in my head. I'm not doing them on another calculator. And I'm not typing in the previous number. I'm just telling Excel, take the previous number, do this action to it. And then A6, we're going to subtract the value in cell A1 from the value in cell A5. So I'm going to do equals and do A5 minus A1. And I get the number 2. Now, all of these things are calculated based on what's in cell A1, because that was the starting point. If I change this, and let's say to 42, everything recalculates. You see all of those, just undo, redo, right? You see everything changing other than A6 is still 2. It is still recalculating. It's just that it's going to come out 2 no matter what you put in A1. So this is going to be 2, and it is still going to be 2. And everything recalculates. So, yeah, anytime you're wanting to do multiple calculations where then you know you're going to have to do those same set of calculations on some other starting value, or maybe you're wanting to calculate, any kind of thing where you're repeating the same calculation multiple times. And then again, later in the course, we'll see more also doing calculations on large groups of numbers, that Excel has shortcuts to do that, as well as then sometimes very complicated formulas. Excel will have a named formula that shortcuts those calculations as well. So that wraps that up.